What's going on, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and we are back with some new boxing content. Okay, I want to catch up on a little bit of boxing news from this past week, and I want to start out by talking about the PBC and Showtime. Now, 2024, we're getting pretty much close to the new year, and Showtime's contract with the PBC is supposed to expire. Okay, and there's been rumors basically saying that Showtime may not renew their contract with the PBC. Okay, we know that Paramount pretty much owns Showtime, right? So the Showtime app itself is ending, and it's going to be on Paramount Plus. All right, I already subscribed to Paramount Plus, and everything that was on Showtime and that app, the streaming app, is now on Paramount Plus. So the boxing content is on Paramount Plus as well. Now, recently, Jamel Charlo had his pay-per-view with Canelo Alvarez, which was on Showtime. But I noticed that you could not get the pay-per-view or order the pay-per-view from Paramount Plus. You had to go back to Showtime in order to order the pay-per-view, unless you're using another, third-party app like Fight TV or something like that. All right, so look, this is my thoughts on this, and I've said this before. When it comes to Showtime, Showtime has always been my second favorite after HBO as far as watching boxing because of the history and just the presentation and the commentary. I've always enjoyed how Showtime looked, and just, out of all, I'm not just talking like just ESPN Top Rank and the Zone, but I'm just talking about when it was ESPN Friday Night Fights, was NBC, when we got all of these other boxing networks or networks that showed boxing. Showtime was always my second favorite after HBO, and I still enjoy Showtime. I think recently, especially this year, they have stepped up with the fights. Like, their schedule with boxing is crazy, and part of that might have been because there was maybe talks of Showtime ending boxing, the relationship with boxing and PBC altogether. All right, so there's been a lot of talks of that, but we have to wait and see what happens from here. There's no confirmation on this. This is just reports that are being made about this. Now, what I will say is that if Showtime decides, and I'm talking about Showtime and Paramount Plus, decide to renew their contract with the PBC, what I do hope is that they don't continue to give us access to boxing through Paramount in the way that it looks right now. Because right now it looks like when you go to Paramount Plus and when you search for boxing, it's like so far down away from everything else. All the TV series, you know what I mean? All the, movies and stuff like that. We know that it's not really a sports app, but I think if if they do renew their contract with the PBC, I think they need to do a better job in presenting boxing, because I noticed that when I went on Paramount Plus, I didn't even see like a pay-per-view event for Jamel Charlo and Canelo Alvarez, and Canelo Alvarez is like the biggest boxing star, you know what I mean? So I think they need to do better with handling that if they decide to renew their contract, because right now it looks like they don't want to renew their contract in the way that it looks right now. I think they got to do a better job at presenting and showcasing boxing. And I've always said this about Showtime. Yes, I do like the fight as the event and watching it on TV. I think it's very high quality. I think it looks the greatest in 4K. You know what I mean? I think it just looks great on television. But Showtime itself as an application, they don't provide many of their fights. You know what I mean? There's just certain random fights that's up there, and you're like, why is this fight up there? Some fights they put up because one of the fighters have an upcoming fight, like Jamel Charlo. They're gonna post a lot of his fights up there. They're gonna post some recent Canelo fights up there. That's cool, but sometimes we want to have access to other fights that was on Showtime. You know what I mean? And they only keep it up for a certain amount of time. Like, I went on there recently and I saw that Floyd Mayweather's fight with Logan Paul was still up there. You know what I mean? It's like no one cares about that fight. It's just like an exhibition YouTuber fight, but they still have it up there. Yet they don't have some of the other recent fights up there anymore. So I just think that if they decide to renew their contract, I think that they need to do a better job at giving us access to more fights and stuff like that. Now, on the other hand, and none of them are perfect, because it's the same with Top Rank and ESPN. There's so many sports, and yeah, boxing is not the most popular sport in America, so you have to scroll all the way down in order to find their fights. But when there is a live fight on, what I do like is that they do place it at the top of the app when you go into ESPN Plus. And the Zone is strictly boxing. They what I like about the Zone is that they have a great library of older fights. I don't think they keep every fight, and I think sometimes it's hard to find it when you search for certain specific fights. But what I will say is that they have a large library of older fights. I just don't care for the commentary that much, and I don't care for the presentation that much. It's okay. I don't think it looks that clear. Some of the fights look real grainy compared or for what you should expect at 2023. You know what I mean? I think that's my major complaint with the Zone. But getting away from all of that, and the possibility that they're saying that there's talks between the PBC and Amazon Prime, people are taking it as they're definitely not going to get a contract renewed with Showtime and Paramount Plus. They might just be shopping around like the fighters do. When a fighter's contract is about to expire, or before they re-sign with their promoter or their network or whatever, a lot of them like to shop around and see how much more they can get elsewhere, or what fights will be promised in that contract. You know what I mean? If they were to leave their current promoter to go to another promoter. And this might be the case as well with this situation here. We don't know what's really going on behind the scenes, because we've heard for years now that the PBC was over. And we heard it for a few years now. So it doesn't necessarily mean the PBC is over. It may be over, but my take on it is, whatever they decide to go, just continue to give us quality fights. That's all I'm really asking for. I think most of these networks are going to keep things in-house. But if the best fight involves cross promotions, make sure you give us that. We've gotten some of it in recent years, but we still need to get better at doing that. You know what I mean? So hopefully that's all I ask. And if the PBC is over, like I've said in the past, I just hope that all of these other fighters will find a new home, and I'm sure they will, because it happened with HBO. A lot of fighters, they used to be, the stars on HBO. They went to Showtime. They went to The Zone. They went to Top Rank ESPN. They went to wherever, Golden Boy, whatever promoter or whatever. They go to where they need to go. They'll find a new home somewhere. But it's not that I want Showtime to end, or it's not that I don't want them to end. It's just like, whatever they decide to do, just keep making it good. I don't like multiple networks, you know what I mean? Because there are great fighters, so many titles in each division, and sometimes we just want more unifications. And I think it's harder to make unification when there are fighters on different, networks and platforms. It's harder to make the fights, but at the same time, I think some diversity is good, because if everybody fights under the same household, I think they kind of monopolize the business. You know what I mean? And I think at least for me, there are certain things, specific things that I like more about each networks. It's like a gift and a curse at the same time. You know what I mean? But we could talk more about that. I would definitely this is a topic that we can continue talking about. I made content over the years about networks and my experience with them over the years. I have older videos where I compare the zones, the Top Ranks, the ESPN Plus, and Showtime, because I've been paying for all of these platforms for years, and I have my likes and dislikes with each. But if PBC is over, I'm sure a lot of these guys are going to get re-signed somewhere. You know what I mean? It's just the way it's going to work. More of these fighters are going to go with the other promoters, and it will be beneficial for the other promoters that don't have these fighters, that are with the PBC currently. But they will probably work something out with one of these networks. And I hope whatever network they decide to go to, if they do leave Showtime, Paramount Plus, I just hope that they just give us quality fights. You know what I mean? And use and treat boxing like prioritize boxing, not the way that it looks right now on Paramount Plus. It doesn't look like a priority. It looks like, all right, we're just adding it here because Showtime is part of us. You know what I mean? So that's my whole thoughts on that. Again, we'll probably be talking more of that, especially when the news is official, whether PBC stays or goes. But we'll talk more about that in the near future. All right? Peace.